Good morning, good morning, good morning.
Hello.
Hi. We just had a nice little laugh before we got started, so that was nice. It's always good. Sometimes we're crying before it even starts, so a laugh is good.
It's always good to laugh, yeah.
It's always good. So this morning I have a beautiful mama joining us. We actually love how I met Steph because Steph doesn't have social media. She's one of the very rare unicorns in the world that doesn't do socials. And did you do social media before Sage, or did you just come
I
off?
I was off it for quite some time before, so I'd like have 6 months where I'd be off of it, and then I'd briefly go back onto it, and then it would annoy me, and then I'd be like, okay, I'm
Yeah,
going back
okay.
off it again, and then
Yeah,
sometimes I'd keep Snapchat, and then I'd be like, okay, I don't see the point in this, so I just literally moved
yeah,
all of it, and I just felt like I was like I think I said that to you before anyway. I felt like I was taking my time away from Scarlett and the girls and things like that, time that I could be
yeah.
having doing other things. So that's
Yeah,
why.
and I know that a lot of people. Um, I'm just going to put my phone on airplane mode. Sometimes it mucks with the Wi-Fi. Um, I know that like a lot of people when they're trying to conceive or struggling to conceive, or of course when they lose a baby, they go off social media because of that reason. But I love also that you're off it because you want to spend intentional time with
Yeah,
your girls that you already have. I have a
yeah,
girlfriend she's got an 11-week old and she just went off socials and she's just loving it. She's just like really intentional time with her two little ones. So yeah, I think it's
it's
important.
definitely.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so you found the podcast on Spotify and you emailed me, and
I
then you were
did.
surprised that I emailed you back.
Yes.
You were like, I can't believe you emailed me back.
I was actually surprised. I think I did it. I was just like, I'm just going to reach out at this point and just see what comes back. But yeah, I think at the time it was like my way of processing things and dealing with things was like trying to relate and connect with other people who'd been through it. And I think probably a lot of people are probably in the same boat as well when they've been through it. It's like you can explain it to other people, but it's not really, they don't really fully understand it unless they've actually been through it.
Yeah, that's
So
right.
yeah, so it was interesting when I came across yours because I'd listened to American podcasts or Canadian ones, and I was like, oh, I wonder if there's an Australian one. And then that's when I came across yours, and I was like, oh. And then we obviously found that there was like a connection there as well, where we'd actually, obviously, with your cousin and things like that being my neighbor, and it was just so bizarre
Yeah,
and crazy.
that was so strange. So yeah, you emailed. You said you're from Newcastle, then you're originally from the Central Coast, and then your neighbor is my third cousin.
Yeah,
That's crazy. That's so
yeah,
strange. But I love that because what I loved is that you messaged me and you said that your partner was talking about Sage and your loss, and then your old neighbor was like, "Oh, we know a girl who's doing a podcast," and so I love that the men are talking about it as well, and that if
yeah.
they and people in general feel uncomfortable when they're talking about this space, and so they now have something to be like, oh, you should listen to this podcast or let your wife know about this or whatever it might be. And so I think that's really really cool as well.
Yeah, yeah. No, I've even said to a couple of, my colleagues and stuff like that and mentioned about the podcast and they're like, oh, what is it? Like, even though they've not gone through it, they're like, I'll have a listen to it. And in some aspects, that's good because it's like you want other people to be aware, not just those who have been through it, but for them to kind of have
Yep.
a better understanding, I think, on like, I guess, how we deal with things and the things that we would like to hear from other people and things like that.
I
So,
think so too. And yeah, I know that a lot of people are listening that haven't experienced it yet to understand what we go through. I know that a lot of your friends will listen to this episode to understand you a little bit better and to hear your story. We have NICU nurses listening. I had one reach out the other day on social media saying, like, thank you so much. We do our best in the hospital, but then we don't know how families are afterwards. We don't know what they go through. We don't know that aftermath or the after effects or anything like that. And so that's awesome that they're listening to understand are they doing the right things in the hospital, and then how do people cope afterwards. So
yeah.
yeah,
No,
it's super
it's
important. And I
definitely a
think
good
it's
thing.
yeah, and it's brave of all you guys to come on and want to share your story because it's super super vulnerable space. And
Yeah, I know. I like obviously I backed out the first time. I was like, not right now. And then
yeah,
I need to do this. And even like Luke was like to me, he was like, yeah, I think it's something that'll be good for you to do. So I was like,
yeah,
okay,
and I love that we were just saying before that this started, that today. I actually met Steph in real life a couple of weeks ago. I went on to the Central Coast and organised a coffee with some of the girls, and Steph came down from Newcastle, and she brought her daughter Scarlett with her. And it was really nice. Steph had messaged me the day before and said, "Oh, I'm really nervous." And I said, "Just imagine that you're having coffee with your girlfriends, but we've all experienced baby loss. So nothing's off limits. You know, we can't say
Yeah.
the wrong thing." And I know I even said something to one of the girls that I was like, well, that wasn't the right thing to say. So I instantly
Yeah.
apologized. And then she was like, no, that's fine. But we just understand each other a little bit
Yeah. I
better
had
and
no
more.
idea
And
what
yeah,
I was there and I was like, I don't even know what to say or what to respond because like sometimes things just
I
come out of my
know.
mouth. That's just how I am generally anyway. And I was like, oh, in this space, it's like, do you say it? Are they going to understand? Because obviously they've been through it as well as to why I'm asking them
Yeah.
questions or whatever. But yeah, no, it was good. It was good to like listen to other people. And I guess with like the small group
Yeah.
that there was of us, it was nice that it wasn't like such a massive thing. I think it was just more personal.
Yeah. Well, that's why when people always reply, oh, there's not many coming or whatever, I'm like, that's perfect. The smaller,
Yeah.
the better. Like, even if it was just one person, even if only you came, I still would have gone. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I just create these little spaces just to meet people face to face for me as well. Like, I love having a cry and meeting and cuddling and drinking coffee with other women that have been through the same as me. Like,
Yeah.
yeah,
No,
we're,
it's
we're a different
nice.
group now, huh?
Yeah, yeah,
But you,
absolutely.
but so you were saying at the cafe that what you were worried about. So you only lost your baby girl in September last year, so it's still
Yes.
very fresh. And you were saying that you felt like once Scarlett went to big school, which she started yesterday, and the house is going to be quiet, and all of a sudden, I think reality will hit of shit. I've thought I was going to have my baby with me at this
Yes.
point, and so today is your first day on your own at
Yes.
home.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
obviously
has
before it was before the school holidays anyway that it happened. So I did have some days at home. However, Luke was at home doing his work anyway, so he was working from home. So I'd had him here, and there were some times when I was on my own. So I guess it's not really the first time, but I've had like a block of 6 weeks now where I've been quite full on, I guess, with the girls. So it's
mm,
I've been very preoccupied, and I did throw myself into a lot of random stuff like painting the house. I mean, to be fair, I only got one wall painted, but I was that was my thing. I started like
yeah.
digging
It
the front
started.
yard and like doing all this stuff. I was like, oh,
Yeah.
I need to do this. Oh, I need to grow these plants, and I was literally just throwing
Yeah.
myself
Interesting.
into everything just to preoccupy myself. Um,
Yeah.
Whereas now I've kind of like very much slowed down, and as well, like I was a really OCD person to the point where I was like cleaning incessantly all the time. Anyway, this was like
Mm,
prior to Sage, during Sage, and all that kind of stuff. Whereas now I've taken a step back and kind of said, like, what's a priority more so in comparison to
mm,
like cleaning the house and all them kind of things. Like, obviously, I want to clean house still, but I'm just not as
yeah. Not
meticulous with it
obsessively.
all, if
Yeah.
that makes sense. Yeah. So
Yeah.
I'm a lot more relaxed and I kind of see things very differently now since it
That's so
has all
nice.
happened.
And
Yeah.
And so I normally ask a question at the beginning of who were you before you experienced baby loss? So what did life look like? What did your household look like? You've just given us a small indication of what it would have been like, but yeah,
Yeah.
who were you before you lost Sage?
So I was working in the Hunter Valley as like in a hotel, like in a resort. Prior to that, like I was bartending. Done a few things, but obviously I've got Scarlett, and we've also got my stepdaughter who's 14, Georgie, and she lives with
Yeah.
us full time. And then we've got the other two girls who live with their mum. So I've got three stepdaughters, and then plus
Yeah.
Scarlett, and she's mine and Luke's as well. So um, yeah, I kind of like I was working a lot. I was doing mixed shifts, but I was quite stressed, I guess, when it comes to life. I was reevaluating life a lot anyway, prior
Okay.
to Sage. So I was like, oh, what do I want to do with life? And then obviously I fell pregnant with her, and then I was working, still working, but I found this pregnancy in comparison to my pregnancy with Scarlett was so different. So with Scarlett, I had the most cruisiest pregnancy. I was a bartender. I was working till 3 o'clock in the morning, and I was on my feet
Wow.
constantly. And then, although I was on my feet in this job, I was like stood in one spot. I wasn't like active, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
never put the time in to be active with this one. And then as well, on top of it, like I think my diet went completely out the window. I was craving all the rubbish you can imagine. Like
Yeah.
I'd happily eat a block of chocolate every single day. Like I was, whereas with Scarlett,
Cravings are wild. Hey, like you
oh,
think surely not, but it's like you can't get it out of your head until you eat that thing.
I was just so like I was like I'm gonna eat anything. Like with Scarlett, I was still eating as if I was at the gym. I was like still meal prepping and I was still doing all that kind of stuff. Whereas this time
Yeah.
around, I was like, do you know what? I'm just going to enjoy this pregnancy and I'm just going to go and eat whatever and I'll sort the rest out afterwards. And
Gotcha. Yeah.
yeah, so that's how I kind of went into it this time. However, as we like discussed anyway briefly, was there was a couple of other things that happened during the pregnancy, and yeah, it wasn't as cruisy. It wasn't like a terrible pregnancy, like as you said that you had, you're vomiting all the way through. I didn't
Mm.
have any of that. I had like none of that. I was very lucky in that aspect. It was more later on when I got sick and things like that. So that was also a part of it that, I've got questions about, but that's for later
Okay.
on.
Yeah, and so I was going to say, so do you think that Scarlett's being like a healthy and cruisy and easy pregnancy? Do you think Sage's was harder because you were 5 years older, or because you have a child? Like I always feel like second or
Yeah,
third pregnancy when you've got other kids at home is harder. Being older might be harder, or do you just think like why do you think, or do you think something was wrong?
I honestly don't know. Hey, like, as I say, like the pregnancy was pretty normal. Like I was heavier. I felt heavier. Like people were asking me if I was pregnant with twins. Like I was, and I was like, no, I'm not pregnant with twins, but I am on the larger side. And then I'd have some people be
Mm,
like, but it's all belly. Although I feel like it
mm,
was everywhere, whereas in comparison to Scarlett, I was literally all belly, nothing else. There was no way anywhere else. And like I
mm.
said, I was very active in my
You were
previous,
more
whereas
active, yeah.
and I think that affected it this time round from my own personal opinion and experience with my previous pregnancy, with me not moving around so much, like it took a
Yeah.
bigger toll on my body because I wasn't keeping so active, maybe. Um, and then, because I can't say it was my job role, I was still in a face to face role and all that kind of stuff. It could have been age as well, obviously, with me being 5 years older.
Mm.
Um, but yeah,
I
like it
don't
was
even know
more.
how old you are. How old are you now?
I'm 30. I'm 34 this year.
Sorry, I know that's a rude
No,
question,
no,
but
no, I don't
I'm
mind.
always curious.
Yeah, I'm 34 this year, so but yeah, no, I it could be something that like had a part in it. Like I got as well with like the whole COVID thing. Like I got COVID at 18 weeks, and then it
Oh
just seemed
shit! Yeah, I
so.
forgot.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
happened. That hit me pretty hard when I had that. Like we had to get the paramedics to the house, but it was. And I was like, oh my God, like, I'm 18 weeks pregnant, etc. They're like, lots of pregnant women have had like COVID, you should be fine, kind of thing. And I was
Okay.
like, okay,
Okay.
like, no worries. And I was fine after that. Like, wasn't anything apart from the fact that I was pregnant and obviously I'm getting heavier. And I was like, oh my God, I'm so tired. Um, and I was working full time on my feet. Like, my job was kind of active. Like, I was jumping in and out. I wasn't just stood at front desk. I'd also be like sometimes up at some of the rooms and like making beds and all that kind of stuff when things hadn't, you
Mm.
know what I mean? Just I was still active jumping in and
Yeah,
out.
you didn't
But
just sit at a desk all day.
yeah, but yeah, I don't know. It could have been a possibility, but that's as well. They put all these things into your head as well about age, like when it comes to conceiving and stuff and being like, oh, over 35. Then it starts to get a
Mm.
bit harder. And like one of my closest friends, I think she was about 38, 39 when she had her last one. She said that's the last, that's the no more for her.
Mm.
But and some of them have had like, beautiful pregnancies. So on that sort of
Yeah,
things,
so true.
I do think it just depends on the person and everything. And no one knows like what's going to happen, as we all like kind of know now as well, based on
No, I
our
know. Yeah, I mean,
situation
my
and
pregnancy
stuff.
with Millie was awful in terms of, I was so heavy, like as in, like I look back now, hindsight's a beautiful thing. my belly was so heavy, but she wasn't moving. So I feel like she was just this big, heavy lump
Yeah.
inside of me. And I had really bad groin pain, and I was vomiting, and I had all of the things. And I feel like, so I just turned 38 yesterday. I
Happy
do worry
birthday.
about what my thing. I do. It was a fucking awful day. I hated it. It was so
Oh,
sad. Yeah, I really struggled. You know what? The lead up to I'm realizing the lead up to an event is way harder than the actual event. So Christmas Day was actually not so bad, but leading up to Christmas was awful. Leading up
yeah.
to my birthday, I've been very angry. And then yesterday wasn't so bad, but it wasn't so bad in the morning. And then by the afternoon, I was just like, no. And I just slept on the couch like I got home from lunch and just went to sleep. Didn't want to talk to anyone, didn't want to see anyone. And
Yeah.
I slept till 8 o'clock this morning. And it's just a roller coaster of emotions, hey? It's
It
just a lot.
is. And you don't know what event it's going to be that will be the trigger either. It's like it can be
Yeah,
anything.
I wasn't expecting, I expected Christmas to be hard. New Year's Eve was quite hard. Like the fireworks went off and I just like burst into tears. I don't know if it was like the end of a year that was like, well, what the fuck was that year that just happened?
It was supposed to be like a completely different year that you like wanted or
Totally.
you were looking at, and then it's completely flipped upside down.
Yeah. And then it's like, how do you start a new year thinking, oh, this year's going to be amazing when you just don't
Exactly.
know how it's going to be?
Yeah, and that's how everyone as well sees it, isn't it? It's like new year, new beginnings, but as much as we can say that, you just don't know what's going to happen. There's always going to be something that happens as well in the years, and you just don't know what life's going to decide to throw at
You
you.
never expect it to be this traumatic though, do you?
No,
Like,
exactly.
fuck.
Yeah.
And so let's talk about your pregnancy. So was it easy, or like how did you guys conceive it? Well, don't even know how you conceived her, but we know how that.
We know how that stuff actually happens, but it was a natural. We conceived naturally.
Natural conception. Yeah.
We'd spoken about having another one, although like obviously Luke's got the three girls. It was always something that was on the cards for me to have another one because I always said I wanted Scarlett to have a full sibling and I'd like to have another one. Which he was all for, and he was super excited. Like he was like, "Yeah, we'll try this year." And then it was like, I'm trying to think, was it in the January I found out, or the February? Like dates are really all mingled still in my head at the moment, but it was very early on that I found out. And I found out when I was 5 weeks. So
Yeah.
because my cycles are very, very strict to the day. Like I know when my
Yep.
period's coming, etc. And still even now, after I've had Sage, they are on the dot. Nothing's changed on
Wow,
that side
that's
of
so good.
things. So I knew straight, like I remember taking the test a couple of times, and I was like, okay, so this has happened a lot sooner than what we'd obviously anticipated, but here we are.
Yeah.
And I still remember, obviously, we kept it obviously from the girls until it was like the 12-week mark, and making sure that everything was good because everything was all good. And yeah, and then
Once
that
you're
was
past the safe zone.
as they call the safe zone, but yeah, and everyone was obviously super. It was funny when I still remember telling Scarlett, we've got the video of telling her, and she was still so confused by it. We're like, we're telling you you're going to be a big sister, and she was like, uh-huh. We're just like, okay, do you understand? No. Oh, okay, don't worry
Oh,
about it. We're just laughing because
bless.
she was so excited. She kept on saying she wanted to be a big sister, and we showed her the photo, and I just don't think she understood what the scan photo was because it doesn't obviously look like a baby as
Yeah.
such.
Bit of a blob. Yep.
Yeah, exactly. But later on, then she, I think, started to understand, especially considering I got bigger. She understood and she connected
Yeah.
what pregnancy was and what the outcome was. And the girls were excited. Georgie at first was typical Georgie, and she was like, "Are you kidding me?" Because she's one of seven, so
Right.
she's the
She's
eldest, and
like, ugh, another
another
child.
one. But it was
Yeah.
it was so funny when like we took the video and everything. She was just like, "Oh my god, another one!" And then, but yeah, she was excited anyway. She got the scan photo and she put it on her wall, and she was very very excited about it. And then even like now, the kids are like obviously asking if that's going to be a possibility like later on. So
Mm.
yeah, it was exciting for us. Like I think I was very chill with Scarlett even throughout my pregnancy. Like I wasn't like someone who was like, oh, I need to. I was taking the multivitamins, the what do you call it? The one that they take obviously during pregnancy or whilst you're trying to conceive, and the one that
Elevate.
yeah. So I
Yeah.
started taking that at the beginning, and then I think I kind of stopped taking it. But I was on iron. I was constantly getting checked for iron because my levels have always been very low. So I'd
Yeah.
suffered with anemia and things like that, and they were concerned about that side of things. So I was basically going in for, I think it was every week or every 2 weeks for my iron, my blood levels and stuff getting
Yeah.
tested.
Wow.
But that was the same as well with Scarlett. Like they say during pregnancy, that seems to happen. But I think as well because of
Yeah,
my
I had to have an
history.
iron infusion.
Oh, did
Sorry.
you? Yeah, I think that with pregnancy, obviously that's what happened. But like you said, you had to have an iron infusion, and they said I might, but I didn't end up having to have that.
Oh,
So
that's good. Yeah, mine was quite low. What the OB had said to me was that if you don't have one now, you will struggle to breastfeed. You'll struggle to have energy. You'll struggle to do all those things. So if I didn't have one during the pregnancy, I would have had to have one after anyway.
yeah,
So he did it as almost like a top up to prepare me for
for that
breastfeeding and sleepless nights.
and all that kind
All
of
the things
stuff.
we didn't get.
Yeah, but it was yeah, it's like I was taking obviously the iron supplements and things like that. I still take them now because with the obviously after everything, the amount of blood loss and things like that during it, which they never told me to. I just knew the signs from it, from me being so lethargic after it. I just decided I was gonna, and then that's helped me as well massively throughout, obviously, these now later days, and I've realised that my iron
Yeah,
levels
that's
just
good.
aren't quite. But yeah, so yeah, that's pretty much nothing crazy, I guess, no crazy life or anything like that prior. I just worked and then yeah, was just trying to, I guess, look for the right path in life as to which direction I wanted to kind of go into when it came to career and being there for the kids and not throwing them into care all the time whilst I was working. So yeah, and then
Yeah.
obviously I came on to maternity leave and I was getting everything all sorted in the sense that I was going to make sure the mowing had been done and the car had been washed and all that
Mm.
kind of stuff. Um, but yeah, and then obviously that's the outcome happened not long after I went on to maternity leave, pretty much. So, and here we
And so
are.
let's talk about that. So you got COVID at 18 weeks, but then
Yeah.
otherwise everything was fine after that.
Yeah, so got COVID at 18 weeks and was still continuing on. And then at, I think it was about 33, 34 weeks, I got pretty sick. Like, especially when you're face to face in customer service, like, there's obviously a high chance of you getting sick and things like that. Um, and I got sick and I had this hectic cough and it just wasn't going away. It was just constant. It was just so consistent. And I was just like, and then it got to the point where I think I was coughing for like a good couple of weeks. And I got this real crazy one when I was on the front desk and I said, I've got to go out the back. And I still remember going out the back, coughing so hard to the point where I felt like I broke my ribs. And I was crying in tears, in pain. And one of the girls was like, I'm going to drive you to the hospital. And I'm really stubborn. I'm like the most stubborn person ever. And I was
Yeah.
like, no, nah. I said, I am going to go. I said, but I'll drive myself to the hospital. Um, and I'd driven myself to the hospital. I'm trying to think if I'd gone already for the DVT before that. I can't remember if that was before or after, but drove myself to the hospital and I'd sat there for 8 hours until I was seen in emergency. There was nothing about me going to the maternity unit, and then even so, it was a matter of they. I think we'd had the discussion where they'd offered me endone, um, and that was
Yeah.
like they said, there's not too much you
Oh,
can do.
that's
If
right. Yeah.
even if you had a broken rib, generally you have to let it heal on its own. We can't do anything about it.
So they offered you endone to help with the pain
Yeah,
whilst you were pregnant with a potential broken rib.
yeah. So I don't know. He seemed to think it was costochondritis, which is apparently just like an inflammation that's caused. There was no scan that was done on my ribs or anything like that. There was no scan done of bub. I was there till 1 o'clock in the morning, and that was pretty much, I got bloods taken and offered endone and sent on my way at 1 o'clock in the morning.
Is endone a normal drug to give somebody when
Apparently,
pregnant?
according to them, yes, but it wasn't something that I ended up taking
Okay.
anyway. So
Yeah. Okay.
although they gave it to me, the only time I obviously took it was after I'd had her, and then, which was my godsend. um, but
Yeah.
but yeah, no, I never ended up taking it. I think you could, trying to think off the top of my head, there's two of them that you can take together, which is it Panadol or paracetamol and ibuprofen, or you can't take. Either way, there was something that I was able to take together. Um,
Yeah.
but even then, it was just more of an ice pack on the side, and I just literally, I could barely get in and out of my car, but I pushed myself to go to and from work. I sat on a chair the entire time. Um, but and because her legs were up in my rib cage where it happened, which is why I think that that could have been a possibility, because her legs were there. That's where it happened to a crack. But
And you're coughing and coughing, and she's kicked maybe. Like,
yeah, and
I don't know.
I have no idea. Like, no scan was done. They didn't check any of that kind of stuff, and I just went on my way. And yeah, in hindsight, probably should have pushed for it. But it's like a lot of people say, in
Yeah.
hindsight, you just kind of go,
I
okay,
know.
well, they said that they can't do anything about it, so I'll just
And you kind of
continue
feel
on.
like, well, if they were worried, they would have scanned the baby. So you
Well,
just
you
kind of
think
think
they're the
you
professionals.
trust them. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so,
Yeah. That's crazy.
and then I had the deep vein thrombosis where they thought that I'd had that because my feet were swelling so much. And then that was the initial conversation that I'd had with one of the doctors, and he was like, oh, yeah, I think it definitely is that. And then he'd measured my calves and saw that they were like, I don't know, 3 centimeters or something different. So I can't remember what it was. Like, in one was larger obviously than the other, and that's why he was under the assumption that it was. But then when they done it, they basically said that that's not what it was. It was just fluid retention and part of pregnancy, and you'll be good and off on your way. It was just literally the 1 foot that I had that was just constantly looked like sausages.
And
um,
what's your gut feel about that now? What's that mean in the scheme of things?
I don't know, like, when you've had it, when you've been to the emergency department as well twice, and I was again sat there for practically 8 hours each time. Um, and I don't know if it was you that I spoke to. I've spoken to a couple of people where it's like, they speak about reduced movements so much, and about how with reduced movements, come in. Like, if you've got the slightest thing, we'll come in and we'll get you sorted. And I had one of my friends, she was only like, we were like a week apart, and she'd gone in for reduced movements, and they like held her for like an hour and said she had to be there for monitoring, and they had to monitor her. And they're so vigilant with that side of things. I just find it bizarre that they'd still, any issue that a pregnant woman has, that they'd let them sit there in an emergency department for that length of time instead of going, okay, send her straight to there. Obviously, she's pregnant. Then they can do all the tests that's required and make sure that everything is okay. Not just put them in the same
Yeah.
category with the public where it's, other things. Yeah, I'm very on the fence about how they went around things. Um,
Yeah.
and yeah, and then it wasn't until I think I got the phone call from the midwife. It was the day before I went in to the hospital. I got the phone call from the midwife being like, oh, how's everything going? The usual chat kind of thing. And I was like, oh, I think everything's okay. I said, I haven't really felt it, but like, I've been quite busy. I've been pretty doing things, and I'm very occupied. So for me, it wasn't a necessity for me to, like, go in. I didn't want to as well go in just for the sake of going in. Because with Scarlett, I
Yeah.
never monitored anything. I was so lucky in hindsight to, like, think back the fact that I was just constantly on the go, had her and all that kind of stuff. And then this time I didn't monitor, which a lot of people will probably be able to say the same when they've also got other kids. Like, you just kind of carry
Yeah.
on.
Yeah.
And
You wouldn't think anything is going to go wrong. So you just think, well, yeah,
no,
I've had a baby before. I'm going to have another one, and away we go.
exactly. And then, but when I've listened to your podcast, it's really, I say funny, it's not funny, but a lot of the girls say it's that last kick. And that last kick happened whilst I was on the phone to the midwife. And I said to the
Oh,
midwife, "Oh no, that's it. I've just felt the kid. So everything must be good." But I said the reason why I was actually on the phone to her was because, oh, that was it. The reason I was on the phone to her was because I was having period pains. So I was feeling the pains in my stomach, and I was like, "Is this something I should be concerned about? Is it like Braxton Hicks? Blah 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 blah." Um, oh, and she goes, "And yeah, how's it feeling?" I was like, "It just feels like I'm getting my period." I was like, "It's just," I said, "It's not intense or anything." I said, "But
oh,
I'm just getting like the period pains." She was like, "Oh, just keep an eye on them and then come in, like, if you feel." And I was like, "Okay." And I was fine. Like, I didn't feel like it was getting intense. And then it wasn't until the next morning where it was absolutely, I woke up and I was like, "Oh my God, like, this is painful." Felt nothing throughout the night. It was that morning, and I woke up and I was like, "Oh, I think it's happening." So we're obviously all so excited about it. I'm probably jumping
fuck.
as I'm talking about this, but
Yeah,
yeah. So and then we obviously went
because
in
you were
and had
38
some more.
weeks.
Yes, yeah, I was 38 weeks.
So you were 38 weeks, and so you just thought you were going into labor,
Yeah,
of
pretty much.
course.
And but the thing was, like, I didn't have them signs with Scarlett because I was induced. So I never got the feeling
Okay.
of going into labor. I was induced in the hospital at John Hunter with her. I was monitored. And even when I thought my waters had broke with Scarlett, they were concerned because it wasn't my waters. I was bleeding. So it was like I've never had the sensation of being in labor even with my first pregnancy. Um,
Mm.
and yeah, so then obviously I was planned with Scarlett to have a natural birth. However, it didn't happen. And again, there was the situation where I'd been trying to have her naturally for hours, and then they realized that her head was on a tilt and she wasn't coming out
Mm.
naturally. And yeah, I ended up having an emergency Caesar with her as well. So, but yeah, it was very intense with Sage when I went in. It's all, for me, I see things differently in comparison to how Luke remembers it when we went in. Um, but yeah, it was pretty crazy because as well Scarlett was with us, so I had to get my friend to pick her up
Oh.
to take her home whilst we went through all of everything, I guess. Um,
And so you took her in because you thought you were in labor. It was,
yeah. So
let's talk through it. So, yeah, so you arrived at the hospital.
So we arrived at the hospital, obviously. I remember as firstly going through to, we hadn't had breakfast or anything. And I was like, I am so hungry. I need to go and get something to eat. So we went through to the Hungry Jack's drive through, and the contractions were getting so intense. And I was like, oh my God. I was like, can they just hurry up with my food and get us to the freaking hospital? I need to get there. They were coming on like full throttle, like full on. It was like every minute or two. It wasn't going to be happening.
Far
And
out.
oh my God. Um, so that happened. And then I remember getting to the hospital, went to birthing unit, and they're like, oh, no, I was like, I've just already called you guys. I'm coming in, like, etc. Okay, we'll go and get you in. And I remember being in there and we were talking about it, like, oh, it's all happening, blah, da. But you see, oh, I've skipped something. So that morning as well, when I was having the contractions, because I was like, oh, I've not had a bloody show, like I've not had. And then the show happened that they all talk about, but I've never experienced.
Mm.
So I had the show, and I was like, this must be the show, so this must be happening. Um, and then obviously we went to the
It's
hospital. Oh, sorry, carry on.
what is that normally? So it's like no, that's all right. No, no, because I've never been in labor either. So it's, did you say blood or
It's
because it's a mucus plug or something? Yeah, explain it
Yes.
to me.
So I'm not too like because they don't really talk about it. They just say you might get a bit of a show like a brownie. Like when
Yeah,
you first get your period and it's like that brownie kind of color, but it's mucusy and sometimes you can get like
yeah.
a little bit of blood, I think, in it. So I'd had that, so I was like, oh, this must be the show that they're talking about.
Wow.
Sometimes you can get a bloody show, and I was like, oh, okay. And I'd mentioned that to them as well on the phone before I went to them. I was like, so I think I've had that show. And so they're like, yep, come in, we're ready, blah, blah, blah. So I went in. I remember this older midwife being like, oh, how exciting, da, da, da. And she's got the Doppler, whatever it is, and she's got it on my belly, and Scarlett and Lucas sat in there and obviously doing it. And she's like, oh, where did you say Bub was? And I was like, apparently her legs are up here, blah, blah, blah. Oh, okay. Oh, I'm just having some issues here. And then and she's like, I'm just gonna go and see if I can go and get a doctor. And I was like, okay. And
Fuck.
Luke immediately just goes, something's wrong. Something's wrong. Like something is not right. And I said to him, look, everything might be fine. Like I was being the positive one where I was going, everything might be fine. Like there's no reason to go and get so there could be something wrong with whatever she's doing. Um,
Mm.
and then it was a while, and then she comes back with another doctor, and he's like, "Hey," and then they go and get the machine out. And for
Fuck.
and for me, it was just
Mm.
kind of like, I was just like, "Oh, these are all the things that they've got to go through, all the protocols and all that kind of stuff." I mean, like Scarlett was there when they pretty much were trying to do everything, and Luke was like so stressed out, and he goes, "I think we need to go and get like my best friend to go and pick her up." So I was like, okay, like we'll get her to come pick us whilst we like figure this out. And Luke seems to recall it being like a good maybe 40 to 50 minutes until they actually told us. Like we had one doctor in with that midwife, and he was like on the scan, and he's like turning around, smiling at us, going, oh, and then I was just like, this is taking like forever. I don't know what the hell is going on. And then I did start to feel that
Mm.
feeling where it was like, things can't be right. Like, there's something.
Yeah.
And then they disappear again. And then they came back with another doctor, and then they were like saying, oh, the machine, like, these are new machines, blah, blah, blah. And they're like doing this. And they're
Mm.
all like turning around, like smiling at us. But I'm just like, what's going on? Like, why is this so hard? Why does there have to be two doctors and a midwife in here to do a scan?
Mm.
Um, and then you could just
Fuck.
see it in the doctor's face. Like I still remember his face. Like he was smiling, and I don't know whether it's a cultural thing. He was an Asian man, and I was like, I'm not obviously, I'm not saying in a way, but
Mm.
his face was like, yeah. So I'm sorry to tell you, but and I was like, and how sure are you? And he was like, oh, like 99%. Like, and the screen was there, and he showed us the screen. And I can't even recall if Scarlett was there still at the point. Like, my brain is still so kind of like foggy on that. But yeah, they
Mm.
just basically showed us, and it was like, I think the hardest part was like, that's just a baby floating. And that was literally, and I was like in some aspects, it's like, why would you show that to someone? Like, wouldn't you just switch it
Yeah, because a
off?
lot of people say that they've turned the screen around, so a lot of people don't show them.
No, but we got it shown to us, and I was like, that was the shocker. Like, the part that's ingrained in my brain was that part. And Luke just broke down, and I still remember me more consoling him. Like, I think he did say that I went into a thing where I was like saying that this isn't real, this isn't happening, but I don't remember it. So I don't know if it was a shock
Mm.
thing for me. Um, but yeah, so that all happened, and I was trying to like obviously console him more so, but my contractions were still happening. So I was like, and they were saying to me as well, like,
Oh man,
you've
that's
eaten, so you can't go in. Like, you can't go into, you've got to wait for 6 hours.
of
Do you want something for the
course.
pain? Um, anyway, and I was like, oh yeah, just, give me something for the pain. And they're like, do you want to go home? I was like, no, I want this done. Like, I was like, this has to be done today.
Fuck.
Like, yeah. And I was
Yeah.
very much like, obviously this has happened, but in my mind, I think I was just kind of like, I need to get this sorted. Like, I just went into like this organization
Yeah.
mode where I just kind of went, okay, so
Mm.
this has happened. What am I going to do? And then, yeah, they were asking me all the questions like, are you going to do this naturally? I said, no, I planned a C-section, so I'm still going to have the C-section. And then the contractions, because it got so hectic, like I was basically going to have her naturally. So they said like, we've got to get you in now. So they pretty much did it very quickly. Um, the nurses that I got afterwards, so I wasn't very happy with how the doctors dealt with it, because I don't, like you've like you said to me before, I don't think they get the training on it, which I think is so important. Like, they're dealing with death on the daily. Okay, so why don't they have training in these situations? And I know everyone's human. I get that. Um,
Mm. Yeah.
but to leave someone in that position for so long to then give them an answer, I just thought it didn't have to be. They knew already what the outcome was. They
Yeah,
just didn't know
that's
how
right.
to say it. And
Yeah.
I think that that's okay for them to not know how to say it, but for us, it's something that needs to be said. It has to be done. So leaving someone lingering for an hour,
Even just an
spitting it out.
explanation like, hey guys, I know this is taking so long. We are actually really struggling to find baby's heartbeat right now. And I know that's
Yeah,
so traumatic to hear.
yeah,
That might be the outcome, and that's what we're struggling with. But we just need to get a couple more people to look at it. Because then at least if they do find it, amazing.
yeah,
Oh, that was fucking scary, but at least we do. But if not, then you didn't just sit there not sure for the last 50 minutes. And also that your daughter was there. Like,
yeah,
do you have someone that could come and get, your daughter? Or yeah, like just a bit of an inkling of what's
of
about to
something.
unfold, especially because somebody's gut knows. So, Luke knew, you were unsure, like, we're in denial, obviously. Dylan says that I was just sitting there going, no, I can't lose my little girl. I can't lose my little girl.
Yeah.
And was just, this isn't, no, it's not happening.
Yeah, this is not what's happening right now. I think I
Yeah.
just went into complete shutdown mode where I just, like, I'm not a vulnerable person either. So I'm very much the kind of person that's just kind of keeps it all together. And then I could do that for like months. I could do that for such a long time until I actually do have a breakdown. um, so in this,
Mm,
I was kind of like, okay, like this has happened. And then I remember talking to the midwives, and some people may not like how they dealt with it, but they were so beautiful in the sense that they made me laugh in that sense. Like I was just
mm,
there and I just wanted
yeah.
someone to like, because I hated the fact of someone touching me and like rubbing my shoulder and all that kind of stuff. Like I remember midwife
Okay.
going,
Yeah. So that
um,
yeah. So they read your personality and was like, okay,
this
she's
is not
not
how she
enjoying
wants
this.
it.
So, yeah.
Yeah. The older midwife was like, oh, I'm so sorry. And I was like, no, it's okay. It's okay. And that was literally how I was. And she was like, but it's not okay. And I was like, do not push me on this. I was like, just leave me to like
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
deal with it that way.
Yeah.
And then the two midwives that I had, they were so lovely and they would just like constantly make me laugh all the time, all the way through it, like right up until I had my C-section. They were there, and I think it was just more like the aspect of every single person you come across, you just hear the sorry part, and it was just like
Mm,
I didn't want to continuously hear that all the way through. I just wanted to kind of get there, get it done, and then after the C-section, they'd all be like just chatting to me like a normal human being in that kind of sense, which I really appreciated, which
yeah.
I don't think you usually get afterwards. But yeah,
Yeah.
it was
Yeah.
interest. Like afterwards, I can't really fault it. Um, but I guess beforehand, when you look back on things, it was very different in that side of things. But yeah,
Mm,
just one of them things, isn't it? So,
goodness me.
but yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, then
Mm,
obviously you had that, and then I was in hospital for like 3 days, I think it was. Or I don't think I even made it to the third day because I basically told them I was leaving. Um, I think I had the first day night because obviously Luke had to be at home with Scarlett, so it was me at the hospital. They moved me into another room, which was good. Like it was like this really nice, spacious room where I had all my own, so I wasn't like hearing anything down the hall, like which a lot of people say
yeah.
happens anyway.
That's so important.
Um,
Mm,
so I had that time, but I don't think I actually slept at all. You just kind of like in a different world altogether. And then, yeah, I think it was the second day, the doctors are coming in and they're, giving you all the paperwork and wanting to talk to you about things. And I'm like, this is freaking day two. Like, you know, day two.
mm,
And they're just like pushing you for all the answers. Like, do you want to do an autopsy? Blah, blah, blah. Um,
mm.
all that kind of stuff. But what they did, like I'm probably as well jumping again. But yeah,
No,
they
that's okay.
they
It's perfect.
obviously found that my waters had broken. So my waters had broken. They just don't know when. And is it the meconium, which is baby's first poo, that had happened
Yeah.
as well? So she
Okay.
she was obviously okay, but they've said that they don't know when. Bear in mind, I'd been in for my scan a week prior, and I had my scan at 37 weeks, and I remember the
Mm.
lady saying to me that with her that apparently she was just under average, but nothing to be concerned about. So they said she was just a little bit under average, but nothing to be concerned about. And I was like, okay. And obviously, I had Scarlett with me in the room at the time and getting my scan done as we normally did. And but apart from that, everything's good. Oxygen levels are great. Blah blah blah. Can't see anything wrong here. And then obviously this happens at 38 weeks, and I was like, I literally was in there like a week ago, and then I had
Mm.
no signs of my. The only thing that I can say was because I was still coughing and I had my costochondritis still, was when I was coughing, I noticed that I'd be peeing. So I'd pee, like how pregnant women,
Ah.
and they said it.
Oh my gosh, I so just forgot how much I wet myself all because I was vomiting so much. I would vomit and wet myself constantly. Dylan's like, "You are disgusting." I
Yeah,
was like, "I have no control. I'm either going to sit on the toilet or vomit in it, but either way, there's."
that was literally me. So it was like someone would make me laugh, or I'd like cough, and I'm like, "Oh, I've just weed myself. I need to go to the toilet," and I was just like,
Legit.
but it was more towards the end. But it was just, I found it so funny because obviously that's what happens with it. But they did notice that the what do you call it? I can't even think of the word. The fluid that's in there,
Mm.
the amniotic
Amniotic
fluid,
fluid.
that had gone. So that had completely gone. So they said they don't know when. They don't know when my waters broke. They don't know when she had her. But they said that it was like the amniotic fluid had basically depleted and gone. But and that's what I was thinking. Like, was it maybe me coughing that was the amniotic fluid slowly coming out? It just like, but they
Yeah.
never mentioned anything in my 37
Fuck.
week about amniotic fluid being
Yeah. So
low.
in the scan, okay. Yep.
So I
The
don't.
fluid was fine at that scan.
Yeah, so everything was fine. There was nothing on that side of things. And yeah, and then also came to obviously I'd had Sage and did all the things, and we opted for a full autopsy, which we're waiting on the full results from. Nothing came from the
Okay.
initial results. Um, they basically said there was nothing that showed up to say a reason as to why everything had happened or occurred, which everyone said sometimes you don't get any answers as to why it's happened. But yeah, so we're still waiting on that. But obviously, I had my 6 week with the OB who didn't even know that I was coming. Obviously,
Oh,
had
really?
the appointment, but she was not aware of my situation. So I was sat in the waiting room for an hour at Maitland Hospital around like all these newborn babies
Oh, not with
crying,
other
pregnant women going to
babies.
have their normal checkups as they usually do because it was where I was going as well. Um, and then
Mm.
I remember her calling me in and just chatting to me like normal, being like, "Oh," and I sit down at there and I was so mad. I was just like breaking, like ready to break. And then she looked at the notes and she just turned to me and she was like, "I'm so sorry. Like the fact that you've been sat out there, I didn't even know your situation. Like no one even made me
How
aware
did
of
she not
this."
know though? Like,
Yeah,
how did she not know?
she didn't like obviously maybe didn't look at it previously prior to me coming in because they were already delayed. I think there was a rush, and she goes, "There's no excuse for it." She did say to me, "There's no excuse for
No.
this," um, and all that kind of stuff. I said, "Well, this isn't the first time that this has happened where I've gone and like, been put into this situation where I've had like the phone calls, like you're with, like I mentioned to you
Mm.
when we met. It was like you make these phone calls and the questions you get are like, "Oh, are you pregnant?" or "Have you had a baby?" Everything. I was calling up about my medication like on the day of me leaving the hospital. They got my prescription. Obviously, they didn't put my name on my prescription, so I couldn't get my prescription meds. And so I had to call them and be like, "You didn't put my name on it, so we can't go and get them. Any chance you can fax them through?" But even in that initial phone call, it's like, "Oh, have you just had a baby?" When you're like calling up asking about them, and it's like, well, yeah, I did. "Oh, don't even congratulate. Thank you." Like, it's
Mm.
like, maybe look at my notes before you start. But there's like no flag. It's like they just ask you for your name. And
Yeah.
I'm like, what was the point in you asking for my name? isn't the whole reason is so you can bring
Yeah,
up these
surely a
notes?
big red font,
Yes,
you know,
something
stillbirth, neonatal death, like whatever,
exactly, yeah.
like big font.
But yeah, that happened like 3 times, and like I said, with my actual doctor as well, she'd gotten someone to contact me for me to do a follow-up appointment because they made her aware of the situation. And again, the girl was like, "Oh, so I can see that you're pregnant." And I was like, "Well, I'm not." And then obviously having to have that conversation with them, and it's horrible for them because they've been put in an awkward situation too,
Totally.
where
Yeah.
they've not been made aware, and then they have to be dealt with a grieving parent on the other end of the line,
Yes.
then probably being quite snappy towards them and unintentionally and things like that. And yeah, it's just the whole process is just such a mess, I think, on my personal opinion. But yeah, um,
Yeah.
yeah. So we had her, and then yeah, then obviously came home, and I just remember the weeks just going into months and all that kind of stuff, as it does.
And so did you choose to have time with her? Like, so you had the planned cesarean, you knew she'd passed before you had the
Yeah,
cesarean. Did you hold her?
I
Did you
did.
spend time with her? What did you
I
yeah.
didn't think I would. Like I didn't at first. I was like, I've heard of a couple of things and I've seen the photos, and for me, I found them quite confronting. I guess photos of
Mm-hmm.
others
Absolutely.
um, in the past, when prior to obviously it happening, I'm kind of like, oh, I don't know how I'd be. Like I don't think I could obviously I would do that. And then when it came to it, like they were so lovely, and they were like, do you want to see her? And they, because we didn't know what
Mm.
we opted not to find out. So we
Ah,
didn't even know if we were having a
yeah.
boy or a girl. And because obviously there's already 4 girls on the scene, we were like, one
Yeah.
of my friends were like, it's a boy for sure because you're so big. And I was like,
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
maybe you know. So I was like, who knows?
Yeah.
And then when they
Yeah.
told us that it was a girl, I was like, of course it was a girl. And then
Yeah.
yeah, and then obviously I was on my own, and I just decided that it was like my time, I think, my own way to process things. I had to see her, and it helped me massively
Yeah.
to see her. Like,
Yeah.
it wasn't like I spent days with her or I had her sleeping next to me, but I did have my moments. But at the same time, I didn't know if that, like, although they gave it to me as an option, I think at the time I was like, oh, I'll have these moments, and then, but I didn't want to get too attached, if that makes sense. That sounds so awful, but I
Mm.
didn't want it to be that I was in that situation because I was like, you know, I can't change the situation. She's not coming home. So I just kind of went,
Yeah.
okay, I'll have a few minutes here and there. So I think I'd like spend maybe 10, 15 minutes, and then I'd call them. They'll take her and they'll be like, oh, and they'll bring her back whenever I wanted to and things like that, which was nice.
Oh.
Um,
Yeah.
so we did all that. But
Gosh, that's lovely.
yeah, but I think, and then I got all my like own personal photos. So I know a lot of people do the heartfelt things, but I don't even think I'd even thought about doing that at the time. I just wanted my own personal photos, and then yeah,
Yeah. Did they offer the heartfelt to you, or you don't remember?
I think they did at one point. But yeah, like they offered it, but I think we're like, yeah, no, that's just for us. We were kind of like, it's a bit bizarre at the time, and then
Totally. Yeah,
I was
absolutely.
like,
We
oh,
don't, no one fucking prepares. I actually, like, I don't know, like, no one prepares us for this.
no,
Like, we're not told, hey, if your baby dies, these are the things that you can do.
yeah,
Like, no one talks about it. And so then, of course, in that time when your baby dies, you don't think to hold them and spend time with them. And you might
yeah,
for 5 or 10 minutes, but like I totally wish I spent more time with Millie after she died. I like biggest regret.
yeah,
But in that moment, I was like, get me the fuck out of this hospital.
yes,
Like
yeah,
it's like, what the fuck has just happened? And then you look back and you think, oh my gosh, I wish I just never left. But
yeah.
like you said, like you know, you, not that you don't want to get attached, but
You
it's
just want to
so
get
fucking
home.
scary. It's like,
Yeah,
you just, oh yeah. And you want to be home with your child, but you don't have that choice.
yeah. And I still remember it was kind of funny. Like I remember when, because we got her cremated, so And I still remember going to pick up the urn, and I remember saying to Luke, because Luke was like, "Oh, do you want to go out for lunch?" And I was like, "Well, I can't leave her at home. She's gonna be at home on her own."
Uh,
And I was like, and then I still remember
uh,
saying to Luke, I was like, "That sounds so crazy. I can't believe I just said that." And Luke's just like laughing, and we had this whole like laugh, ha ha moment where I was just kind of like, I was
mm,
like, and I know that sounds so bizarre, and I was like, but I can't leave her at home. So,
yeah.
but that was, I think, the feeling that I felt as well, because we didn't have like a ceremony as such for her. Because I always said that I wanted to do something a bit more personal, where I was like, maybe go to the beach and do something just me and him. Like, we didn't want the kids, I guess, to be around all the sadness, if that makes sense. So we kind of wanted to
Mm,
keep it between
yeah.
us to do it. Um, Obviously, we don't really have family as such here, so we were just going to like do it ourselves and go and do that. But so when we did it, like, we've got a friend that's a mortician as well. So she was like,
Oh, wow.
yeah, so she was giving us all the advice on like what we can and can't do, and if we wanted her to go and pick her up, she's got someone that she can
No.
obviously assist with that side of things. But no, we ended up obviously, the people who we got Pettigrew to do it, and they were great. They were so lovely on how they did everything, and you know, but I said to Luke, I was like, shouldn't we be there like with her when she gets transferred, obviously from there to the services? And I kept on having to remind myself as well. In some sense, I was like, but like, as much as that's her, this is gonna sound so deep. As much as that's her body, that's not her in there anymore. So I was like, I
Mm,
just kept on reminding myself that, and that was my way of like, when it got to that point, for us to be able to go, okay, like, we need to just go through the process, and we'll pick up her ashes, and then we will do our own little ceremony ourselves, which we're still like figuring out yet as to what we're doing. Like, we've bought some necklaces where we can obviously put the ashes into. Um,
oh, beautiful. Yeah.
so we're looking at doing that. But obviously, with her being so small, I as well don't want. Part of me wants to keep them here. Like, I wanted to like put them into the ocean and things like that. And I'm like, oh, but do I want to get rid of them? I feel like I'm getting rid of them.
Dylan, yeah. I think the natural thing that most people do is, oh, we'll scatter the ashes, and Dylan talks about scattering her ashes up at Burley Hill, which is where we got engaged. And I was like, at first I said yes, and then like a couple of weeks ago, I said I don't want to scatter her ashes. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not, I just not. And like, I got him a ring made, and I've obviously put some in. Oh, you wouldn't even know because you don't have social media.
No.
I put some of her ashes in the ink
Oh,
that are in my
really?
tattoo.
That's so.
Yeah, so
Because I saw your
so
tattoo,
her
didn't
ash.
I? Oh, I didn't realize you got that one done.
Yeah, so
That's
yeah,
so
so I've got the
cool.
little handprints there, and that's got ashes in it. So my friend flew up to the Gold Coast to do it for us
Oh,
because she's
wow.
amazing. And then I drove down there to the Central Coast. But yeah, we got her ashes put in the ink, and then so that her ashes are in my skin,
That's really
which I
cool.
freaking love.
I've heard of
Yeah.
that, and I've been thinking about getting a tattoo. Like, I have no tattoos. Like, I had piercings. Like, I took all my.
Oh yeah.
So I had. That was another part of my grieving process, was I had dreadlocks. So I had a full head of dreads, that were like down to my
Mm.
bum, and I got them all out. I literally sat there for days, just like pulling out all my dreadlocks, and I
Wow.
took all my piercings out. So I had my labret done. I had my nose done. And I had like, I just took everything out. I just went back to basically basics. And
How interesting. Yeah.
yeah, it was just kind of my way. So I remember just sitting there with my laptop. And I think I was listening to your podcast actually at the time. I just sat there listening to it,
Oh,
just
I love that.
taking out, like, with this crochet needle, just like going hard on like 43 dreads I had in my hair. Um,
What a like I feel like that would have been super cleansing.
It was, because I got my first set of dreadlocks like 6 months after Scarlett was born. Um, had them for 2.5 years and took them out. And then I literally had the dreads in. I got them put in 2 months before I fell pregnant with Sage. And And then I had them in, and I found them like, because they were so heavy as well on my head. So that plus the pregnancy, and I was like, oh my God, these dreads are killing me at the moment. And
Yeah.
yeah, then afterwards I was like, no, I'm getting rid of them. I was like, don't want them. And I was like, just started, just getting into them and just getting them
Yeah.
all out.
Wow.
So I got rid of all of them. That was also a big part of my process. I think I just spent a lot of time outside in the sun,
Yeah.
and I just needed like a lot of alone time. I got Reiki done. I don't know which you've.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so I had this really beautiful woman up here, and she was so lovely. She offered me another session for free if I wanted it, which I
Mm.
haven't taken it. Like at this point, I haven't felt like I really needed it at this point. But it was a
People
very
are so kind, hey?
yeah, it was an interesting session though. Like I got a massage and got the Reiki. I cried for the rest of the day after the session. I don't think I've ever cried that much because I'm like, although I've cried right now, I'm not really.
I know, I love it.
I'm not a
I love seeing
crier.
you
I
cry.
hate crying. Um, and
Mm.
yeah, so I found it just I was trying to look for any way possible for me to just kind of like just be back to me again, if that makes sense. But you're never going to be.
Yeah.
Um,
No.
so yeah, it's been a bit of like, as you're aware, it's like that up and down roller coaster ride. I've held it together for quite some time throughout the 6 weeks. I don't think, apart from when I saw you and that when I was talking
Yeah, which
about
I loved. I loved. You know, we're at the cafe when you started, you had tears in your eyes, and I was like, yes,
I've got
because
a
I had spoken to you, and I knew that I know that you're not a crier, and
yeah
you know, and but I love that because it's so healthy and helpful and
yeah.
important, and
I think
you know,
I know we need
you
it. Like I know we need to cry. Um,
yeah.
but for me, that was the one thing that the midwife said to Luke as I was being trolleyed down for my C-section. She turned around to Luke and she goes, "She's very stoic, isn't she?" And I was like, I didn't even know what that word even meant at that point. I was like, what does stoic mean? And
It's like strong, isn't it?
yeah,
Strong and courageous, and
pretty
yeah.
much, yeah. They were like, she just basically just, and he was like, yes, that's Steph in a nutshell. So yeah, I've always just been that way. But so when it does come to me being emotional, like I hate it with a passion. Like even sat here right now, I'm just kind of like,
No.
stop crying.
Pull your shit
Yeah,
together.
you're the woman. You are not supposed to be crying.
Oh, I
So,
love
but
it.
yeah, no, like as I say, like I got emotional more talking about Scarlett, I think, because that was the hardest
Yes.
part for me was, you know, because she didn't fully understand, but all she saw was me upset.
Mm,
And it was actually funny because
gosh.
when I saw you guys, and obviously I had my little cry talking about it, um,
Mm,
and we got to Luke's work, and she was like, "Mummy, I need the toilet," and I was like, "Okay." She goes, "I want you in there with me though," and I was like, "Okay, like I'll come with you." And went to the bathroom, and she goes, "Mummy," she goes, "why were you crying at the cafe?" And then I was like, and then
mm,
obviously I was explaining to her, I was like, "Oh, because we're having a conversation about baby Sage." And she goes, "Oh, okay." She goes, "But why were you talking to them girls about baby Sage?" And then I explained to
mm.
her, I said, "Oh, well, them girls have also lost babies." And I just remember going to her, "Does that make sense?" And she goes, "No." I was like, "Okay."
I love her honesty.
Nope. And I was like, "Okay,
Uh,
no problem." So,
yeah.
but she understands it, like she knows, and she'll sit there. Like the other day was the sweetest. So her little best friend, who's also our neighbours, they just lost their granddad, literally, maybe a week or two
Oh.
ago. Um, so yeah, they've just had his funeral, and she comes over. I don't even have any tissues. My nose just too funny. Should have
I
brought that. I know it was in the thing, and
was about to say, I should have warned
you
you.
did
Yeah.
warn me.
Oh.
Yeah, so she comes over as they do every single day they're with each other, and she comes over and she's talking to me like two little 5-year-olds having a conversation. She's like, "Oh, my pops, he's in heaven now." And then Scarlett's Scarlett's just put her hand on her shoulder. It was so cute. And she's gone. She goes, "He's with baby Sage in heaven." And I was just like, oh, it was just so
Oh,
sweet.
that's so
And
beautiful.
she was just
Yeah.
like, it's okay. She was like, she goes, they're both together. And then she starts talking about how maybe one day she'll get to be a big sister. Um, yeah,
Oh,
I
she
think
gets
she
it.
does get it, like, because I've had the conversation with her about, maybe another day. There might be another time. And she's just like, she was just
Hmm.
always so sad about the fact, like, she's not sad because she says she's not sad because she's still, I think, comprehending it. But
Yeah.
she said, she's like, she goes, how was it? She said to her, she goes, I'm still a big sister. Um, I
Oh.
just don't get to do big sister things. And then, yeah,
Oh.
and then she was just like, but maybe one day I'll get to. And I was just like, oh. But I think that's the hardest part because she was looking forward to it so much. And she's just like, you guys probably saw when she was at the cafe, like with little, was it Bodhi?
Yeah.
Um,
Bodhi,
and
yeah.
how she's just very gentle when it comes to young kids, and she's always so like loving. And I was just like, oh, maybe another time,
Yeah.
but just not right now. So yeah, it's just but it's refreshing how she talks about it. Like we'll have these conversations, and she just so openly talks about it. And I'm glad that she can have them conversations as well. Um,
Yeah, and that's a credit to you guys because that's however the conversations have gone with you to her
yeah,
is she's only learning from you. So that is a credit to you
it
guys.
is sometimes. I think though the hardest part is like we were camping like the other week, and we're there in the toilet block, and obviously you have other people coming in, and she said something about her, and she's like, but she's dead, and I was like, yes, yes. And I was, you can't really sit there and deny it. Like, you can't sit there and say, oh, say it another
No, that's
day,
right.
because she's being honest, and that's just how she's processing it. And I had my neighbor stood there at the same time, but she had like this smile on her face as if to say, don't you just love how blunt kids can be? And you just kind of go, and
Yeah.
my response was, do you know what? You're just a little pain in my butt. That was all I said to her. It was just, I was like, I don't even know what else to say to that because I can't even say anything. I was like, now get yourself showered. Let's
Yeah.
go and get you showered and let's get you back to camp. But yeah, no, it was just, oh God, I really am snotting everywhere now.
Do you want to grab a tissue?
I might have to, but my toilet's a little bit further away.
I have a roll of toilet paper next to
Oh,
me
I
because
should
I've
have
run out
done.
of tissues. So
I should have done like looking around for something. Um,
use your shirt or something,
I know it
sleeve.
sounds gross.
Anything's
Anything.
appropriate.
But yes. Anyway, I don't even know where we got to because I'm completely on a ramble at the moment. Um,
No, I love it. I did want to ask, does Scarlett remember being in the hospital? Does she remember them scanning the screen? Does she remember any of that?
Not that I'm aware of. She's never mentioned anything like that. She only recalls. So my best friend, her name's Ty, and she was like, she just all she remembers is, do you remember when you were in hospital, Mummy, and Auntie Ty came and we did this together and we did that. So she,
Oh, that's
yeah,
good.
because she came over and looked after her and did so many of these things with her. I think that it was nice for her. And then I it was
Mm.
harder for Scarlett, like with the whole hospital situation, with me being in hospital, like she wanted to stay with me and sleep with me in bed, and or she wanted me to come home. But even when I did come home, like I wasn't mum at that point, if that makes sense. Like
Yeah.
as much as I wanted to be, I like physically, obviously you have a C-section, so you're for one recovering from that. Um, I was up and moving around, but I just wanted to be bound to the bed. Like
Yeah.
I didn't feel, what's the word? I didn't feel present, like, or here. Like, it just didn't seem real. And, you know,
Yeah.
when you've got, like, kids there and, like, Scarlett's coming, like, she's always been very attached to me. Like, both me and her have been very close. And I felt like there was this massive wall now. Um, and it was like
Mm.
that for quite I say maybe a couple of weeks to maybe 4 weeks. where she would then go and see her older sister for things or go and see dad. She wouldn't come, and because all she saw was me crying
Mm.
all the time. Um, and I think that was my turning point for me, was being like, I am very lucky to have a little girl already. Um,
Mm.
so I was like, and I'm not going to ruin that relationship with her because of this. Although, like, it's all a part of the process, and I know that I wasn't going to jeopardize my relationship with her for my grieving. So
Yeah.
I literally got up and I like put things to the side and I just said to her, I was like, we're going to make cupcakes. So we made cupcakes and did all these different things. And I think that was how I kind of got myself more up and going. Like I had
Yeah, that's
that,
good.
um,
You had something to get you up and going.
exactly in comparison to obviously like with me hearing your story and a lot of other, women's stories where it's not the same in that. And that's why I will never, like I said to Luke, I said there's so many other situations out there that, I really feel for other people in comparison to myself. Like I will never sit there and, like for example with you and Nil, which, it's like, you had her in like, you had 3 days. Was it 3 days, wasn't it? Or more? 6 days,
6.
wasn't it? So you had
Yeah.
them days, I guess, with her, in comparison. And I even said to him, like, for me, like that would be so hard. Like that would be harder in comparison to this.
Mm.
Like, so it sounds terrible, but I've always been seeing it from a different perspective where other people or, have been in situations where they've obviously had bub there and they've been expecting something else and then,
Yeah.
unfortunately it's gone into a different direction. And that's just how I think I've just continued on. Like I'll have my days obviously where I'm like this,
Yeah.
where it's like I'm gonna be an
Yeah.
emotional wreck and I just want to be on my own and cry. But then I'm like, oh, now I've
Yeah.
got to go and pick up the kids. So let's go and put your happy face on and go and crack on. Things still have to be done. So yeah,
Wow.
that's me.
Yeah.
'Cause,
Which is so crazy. Like I can't even imagine having to get up and function for kids. And but then I also see the benefit of it, that it does allow you something to give you purpose and
yeah,
get up for. Whereas I struggle to get up most days because I'm like, I've got nothing to get up for.
exactly, and that's what I mean, and that's why I couldn't imagine being, in them shoes if it was like me with Scarlett. Say for example that happened with her, like I couldn't obviously
Mm.
ever imagine. Um, but yeah, you just see. I've been seeing things in such a different light. It's funny how trauma has its way of kind of making you see things so differently sometimes as well. Like I went down like this real. I meditated so hard for like days, weeks. Um, I've
Wow.
literally went to the point where I was like meditating for an hour or two whilst the kids were at daycare, and I just literally lay on the floor
Good for
and do
you.
that. And I don't know, it was like I felt so much calmer after it. Like, and then
Mm.
during the school holidays, it all went out the window because I had the kids at home and I
Yeah.
was just like
Of course.
constantly on the go. I started running though. So I was like every morning I'm up at 5:30 and at least try and get out for a walk or a run.
Go
But
you.
I think I just see things so differently now. I'm like, I want to make the most out of life. Like, I don't want it to be that I'm
Mm.
it's just who I am. I think I'm just kind of that person where I'm like, okay, I need to do this. Like, even the thought of going back to work, like, I go back to work in a couple of weeks and I'm like, part of me is just like,
Mm.
when you have to see people that saw you previously,
Yep.
and some people may not be aware. So it's all them questions as well that's going to be,
Fuck.
yeah. And I do a
Mm.
lot.
How can you email anybody to say like, hey, can you let everybody know, or like, do you plan on doing a
Oh, well,
pre-warning?
everyone at work does. However, with me being in a customer-based role and sometimes you get regulars, it's like we get some of the owners of like villas, for example, who knew me like on that level, and
Yeah.
they may be aware. They may have already been made aware if they've asked the question about how I'm going,
Yeah.
but if
Yes,
it's not come up
true.
in topic. And then they see you and they're like, oh, you're back. How's everything going? And then that's when it's like, because as well, you can have like not just one person there, you can have a lineup of people there. It's going to be a very confronting situation where someone will ask me that question and I'm going to be like, maybe come back when there's no one here and I can have a conversation with you about it. Because so I don't know
Mm,
really as to how I'm going to approach them conversations as of yet, instead
yeah.
of turning around to someone saying, yeah, this is it. And then for everyone else around to hear it and be like, that was awkward. That's, you
Fuck. I
know?
know. And it's so hard. And again, I put something on socials the other day saying, so I had a real estate agent come to our house during the week, and we bought our house off him 2 years ago. We see him at the dog park. My husband quotes a lot of real estate work for him. We do roofing. Poor assumption on my part. He was coming to the house to do an appraisal, and I assumed he
Yeah.
knew because Millie died 7 months ago. Dylan has seen him a bunch of times since. They've spoken, whatever. I
Oh,
just assumed
okay.
they would have had the
Yep.
conversation. So he comes to the house and he walks in and he sees that my beauty salon is now in the house. And he's like, what's this all about? And I said, oh, I used to do the salon out in the cottage, but about our baby girl. And he was like, yeah,
Oh,
congratulations.
God, yeah.
And I went, no, Kev, she died. And he just went, oh, Rochelle. And I went, and then I was just thrown but then I went into my normal, so when people come into my salon, I show them photos of Millie and I explain and I'm very open about it. So I did that. But then he started making excuses for me and he was like, then he compared it to them having a miscarriage 22 years ago. And
So,
he said, it's okay, you'll have another
oh,
one.
yeah, them words.
And I'm like, and I'm like, and I've stewed on this for days. And then I, jumped onto Instagram the other day and I was like, if your husband died, Steph, say you said Luke died, I wouldn't say to you, it's okay,
You'll get
you'll get
another
another one.
husband. Yeah.
So, like, why the fuck would I say it about
Yeah.
Sage? Like, if you tell me Sage dies, I'm not going to say, it's okay, you'll have
Yeah.
another
No,
one.
exactly.
Your fucking daughter
Yeah.
died. Like, that's it. And then people said, oh, he was probably just awkward. Yeah, of course he was fucking awkward. I get it. I was awkward too. But, like, we need to educate people on what to say in this situation because it is awkward for us. Yes, it's awkward for them. But what would you say if somebody said their husband, their wife, or their 22-year-old daughter died, or their
Yeah.
whatever? It doesn't matter how old they are. You don't say, it's okay, you'll
I
have
think that's
another
the
one.
point that I was just about to make, but you just like obviously said it. So, like you said, if it was your 20-year-old, 22-year-old daughter, you wouldn't get comments like that. So, say if someone had lost a teenager or even a like five,
Mm,
6-year-old, you would
six.
not get a comment like, "Oh, you'll have another one." People look at miscarriage or neonatal or stillbirths as in like they were never here, so therefore it's not the same. And I think that that's the
Mm,
mentality is the fact that because they obviously in your case Millie was living, however Sage wasn't. She was in me, but she never
mm,
made it obviously earthbound as living. So
mm.
I think as well some people like how they perceive as well miscarriage, for example, they're like, oh, it's like X amount of weeks, etc. The baby wasn't fully formed,
Yeah,
so therefore, unfortunately these things happen, but and it's not, it's still, it still happened. And it's especially
yeah,
more so for the women. Like we're connected, you go through
yeah.
this whole process internally and physically. Um, and then when it actually happens to somebody else, I don't know, when it happens to you as well, like I'd never make them comments to anybody being like, oh, you'll have another one. It's like I've had friends that have had miscarriages, um, quite a few of them. I know it's quite actually more, again, like stillbirth, I've started to find out, or neonatal, that it's
Mm,
actually more common than anything. But people don't realize it until you've
totally.
actually had someone close to you. Like I was having to rock up to daycare and things like that. That was the hardest part was like the educators at daycare.
Yeah,
Some of them barely even said hi to me prior to Scarlett leaving after like it happened. So it was like you'd get a smile. The ones that you used to talk to all the time, they'd look at you and go, hey, and they continue on their way as if like they just did not know as to what to say or how to react.
Because they were just too scared to say
Yeah, and some of
something.
these were
Yeah.
parents. They were mothers as well themselves. It wasn't like they were young girls. They knew about the situation because we got the director to let them know, and I was happy to discuss it. But I find that's probably the worst thing that can happen is someone that you have discussions with on the daily and see them at the kids' birthday parties when they go from that to then looking at you and just kind of going, oh, I don't know what to say, so I'm not going to say anything at all, and just blank that person. Whereas
Yeah.
I've also had,
Yeah.
which is my preference, is other mums coming up to me going, once I've had that conversation with them, they ask me the questions and they want to know as to what happened. And like I've got one that I'm meeting up with tomorrow, or she's coming over to mine, and she had Bub, like, was it a week or two before I had Sage? So she's coming over with him tomorrow.
Oh.
But yeah, it's just like I would rather someone come up and have a conversation with me because she didn't know how to react. Even she turned around and she goes, I didn't even want to be at the daycare holding him, thinking it was going to be a trigger for you. But I
Mm,
personally haven't found it to
mm.
be triggering because how I see other babies is that that's not what she looked like. That wasn't my baby.
Yes,
Um,
agreed. I'm the
so I can
same.
look at other
Yeah.
babies and go, oh, cute baby. Like if they looked like Sage, then I'd probably be more triggered.
Yeah.
But because they don't look anything like her, I'm like, oh, what a cute baby. But I
Yeah.
saw twins yesterday. That was bizarre. Like I saw very newborn when I was taking the Scarlett, obviously to her first day at kindy, and seeing two of them so newborn. That was slightly triggering. I was like, oh, I don't know where to look. But at the same time, I was fine in some aspect.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think the worst one that I had was when I think it was Scarlett's last thing, Christmas thing at the primary school, and there was a girl there, and she was in her teens, but they were like giving awards out, thanking them for helping them out with the little kids, and her name was Sage, and that was it. And I just
Mm.
went, oh,
Oh,
I
yeah.
was like, no. And I held it together. It was the
Yeah.
first time I'd been out on an outing with all the other parents and seeing all the parents there in this massive community hall. And I'd held together, just being like sat at the back, just being like, okay, no one come talk to me, just like want to kind of do my own thing. And then I heard the name and I was like, and Luke had disappeared and I still had to wait for Scarlett. And I was like, where the hell's Luke disappeared to? I'm sat here and I'm going to burst into tears. But yeah, there's a
Mm.
lot. As you can tell, like I just kind of go on and I just kind of
It's great. It's
it's
good.
yeah, it's just a thing. It's a thing that we all need. I think it's just to process it in different. And like I said, like the triggers are there, but you just don't know when they're going to be there. It could just be a name. It could be seeing something in the sky.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah, I haven't seen a little child called Millie yet in terms of, well, I mean, a girl that I was friends with named her child Millie just a few
oh,
weeks after our Millie,
hilarious!
and she thought that that would be
That's very hard.
no, she thought that that would be special. I was like, please don't ever talk to
Oh,
me
was
again.
that? Did she?
Like we had literally
Wow. So she did that in honor of you in that sense, or oh wow, yeah, that's yeah. I can't see it.
yeah, we've never met, but we were like friends through like social media and like our fertility specialist. So she had done IVF through the same guy that did my surgery. We've been chatting, and then she fell pregnant, then I fell pregnant, and then I had. So she lost a baby, like maybe 17 or 19 weeks
Yeah.
prior to that. And so, yeah, we just connected through that. And anyway, when she was just
Oh,
ready to have her baby, we were
disconnected.
talking about our husband's meeting, and they'd get along so well.
Lost you.
Can you hear me?
Oh, I think so. Yeah,
Can you
we're
hear
good.
me?
We're good. Yeah,
Oh, good. Oof. It might be starting to play up.
I might
Yeah,
have
and
to
we were like
move.
talking about our husband's meeting. Are you
Yeah,
right?
it's only because my laptop's already getting to 20%, and I'm like, oh, this is gonna happen. But anyway, sorry. Continue on.
yeah, and we were talking about our husbands meeting and they'll get along so well and all these things. And then it was when Dylan and I were in the US, yeah, we were talking about, and then she'd sent me through like, hey, I just want to let you know we've had the baby. I just wanted to let you know before I put it on social media. I said, thank you so much. She sent me photos and it was a little girl. And I said, oh my gosh, what's her name? And she said, oh, we haven't decided
Oh,
yet because we thought it was going to be a boy. So we had lots of boys' names. And so we were going back and forth with names, her and I. And then she just messages me and she says, hey, we've come up with a name and I hope you love it. And I hope you see the beauty in this. Her name's Milli. And I just went,
no.
and I'm like, I thought, am I being ridiculous? But I thought, and I said it to Dylan and he was like, what the fuck? And I was like, that's not okay, is it? And he's like, no. And like, I kind of thought, what am I going to do? Have you over for a barbecue with all my friends and you come in with your child and you're like, hey guys, this is
Yeah.
Milli. And she's 2 months older than my Milli. Like, no,
Not the
nah,
it's not the
no,
same.
sorry.
It's not.
And I just replied to her, I just wrote, I don't know what you want me to say. And then and I just didn't reply since. And then a couple of weeks later, she wrote thinking of you. And I thought, of course you're fucking thinking of me because you have a living child that you named after my child that died.
Yeah.
Like, what?
And it's like
Sorry.
in years to come, it might be something, but it's more of a question to be asked as well, I think. Not just an assumption to be made that that's something as to how someone's going to, accept that as being a beautiful thing. I don't know how I'd feel. I don't think I would. Like, I don't think I'd be happy. Like, you have a living child, like, and I was naming my child that, and obviously I don't have
And you
them.
want to come to my home and bring your child in and you're going to be calling out to her. And it's not as if we don't speak Milli's name. Like if I was a very private person and we didn't often say her name, but like her name is known. Like a lot of people know her name. And if you come in, like we had a barbecue for my birthday on Sunday and one of our friends came over. She has an 11-week-old and I held her and I cuddle her and that's just my job when she's here. And a cousin came over and she was like, wasn't expecting me to be holding a little brunette baby. And she was instantly triggered and
No.
sad and just shocked, like, just like, shit, like I just wasn't expecting to walk in and see that. Can you imagine if my family came over and I've got a friend here who has a little
Really?
child called Milli? Like,
It's like how.
yeah, like it just wouldn't. I mean, if we met after, like if I meet somebody now and their child's name's Milli, okay, wow, that's crazy. That's, but she named the child
Oh,
after. Anyways,
it's
that's just
too
a whole other
soon. It's
thing. But
too soon for that, and I think that
yeah,
some people like. Obviously, I understand in people like saying things, not knowing what to say, but that's kind of a step in a completely different direction when you're like then naming your own child after somebody, and especially if you don't like as much as you know her. In some aspects, it's kind of like me naming if I had another child and being like, oh,
well, then I also thought I was like, oh, maybe I wasn't as close to her as what I thought. But then in one of my episodes, podcast, I talk about my friend who donated Precious Wings boxes in the name of Milli. So when Milli passed away, this girl donated Precious Wings box in honor of Milli. So I'm like, okay, so and I talk about that. So whilst we'd never met, we talked online for over
yeah,
a year, very closely. We talked about vaping prior to pregnancy and how much we were struggling during pregnancy. And I think that was a thing as well. Like I never vaped the entire
yeah,
pregnancy because I didn't do anything. I didn't even wear perfume, all the stupid shit I thought would fucking matter. But she vaped like not a lot, but a couple of times throughout her pregnancy. And so, we talked about all of those kinds of
yeah.
things. And then I'm just like, so we were, closer than
No, but I
anyway.
get it.
Anyway, I don't even think I'd be happy if someone called their dog Milli right now.
No, it's true. It's just it's one of them things, isn't it? Like, and as you say, like maybe years down the track, you may be like maybe something that you go, oh, you know. But at the same time, I don't think I'd be comfortable with it either.
Mm.
Someone naming their animal Sage, but that actually it happened. It happened with Scarlett. Someone had gone and named their pet after I'd had her, and it was like, why are you naming your like pet after my daughter? This is just
Yeah,
weird.
yeah.
But sorry, let me just quickly switch on my thing.
But yeah, that's okay. But even you saying that, like, it would be like you naming your child Milli now. One of the other girls in our community, she's lost a little boy named Louis, and she said since she's met me, she's crossed Milli off her baby list. She's
It's
like, it's just
not.
not. I won't be using it now. And I love the name Louis. And I said the same to her. I said, oh, yeah, Louis off my boys list now. You know, so it's just, I mean, sadly, I'm interviewing so many people now. I'm going to have a very long list of names that I can't
Yeah.
use, but I just wouldn't do it, you know? Like,
I do.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's,
And that's
ugh.
the thing was like Sage's name came from it was a one of my daughter's little friends, her mum. So she had a stepson that had that name, and I was like, oh my God, like it's such
Yeah,
a
cute.
diverse name. It's very different, and I was like, it's also boy or girl, and that's why obviously we didn't know what we were having at the time.
Yep.
So
Ah,
um,
yeah, of
but I
course.
think the bizarre thing when it came to obviously names, like I had no idea, even Scarlett, I didn't name her beforehand. I think I named her on day 3 after she was born. Um, and
Wow.
at this time though, I'd mentioned the name, and me and Luke have always said like, and we were like, no, I don't want to name it. And I was like, no, I'm not picking that name, Luke. And he'd be like, well, I don't like that name. And this was the one name that he actually turned around and said, I really like that name. And he started telling everyone that we were naming like this baby Sage, and I was like, why are you telling people that? I haven't even said that that's what we were going to be doing.
That's such a commitment. Don't
I was like,
commit me
don't
to
want to be
this.
telling
Yeah.
people this. And that's why I find it like so many things that I've thought about. I'm like, he told people that the name of our child and things like that. And I'm like, with Scarlett, we didn't even know what she was going to be named. There's so many things that we did so
Mm,
differently in this pregnancy in comparison to with Scarlett that I'm like, oh, do I just like this next one? Because I don't have social media either. I think that I'm kind of grateful I didn't have it because no one knew I was
yeah.
pregnant apart from those who I went to work with and who I still communicate with on a regular. I didn't put any posts up. I didn't have a baby shower. I didn't do all the things that most
Yeah,
people
wow.
do when they're so excited to have a baby. Um, in hindsight, I feel
Yeah.
like quite bad about that because I didn't get as hyped up as to what other people do. But I was the same with Scarlett. Like I would have had a baby
Mm,
shower if it wasn't for my friends having thrown me like and said, "Oh, let's go and do something." And I was like, "Oh, I don't
yeah.
really like care for that kind of thing." But
You don't like the
I'm not
fuss.
like,
Yeah.
yeah. For me, it was just kind of like I don't know what it is. It's just I was just kind of like, I'm having a baby, and as much as like I love this baby, like it's I don't want to just be spending and throwing all this money into blah blah blah. I know it's all about people coming together and like I didn't have a baby room. Like I knew that with this bub, they'd probably be in our room for a time, and then I'd end up transferring them through into the spare room when it came the right time. Anyway, so we'd got all the stuff, but I didn't go out of the
Yeah.
way to. And I was like, maybe that's what it was. Maybe I didn't put my efforts into painting a room and
No.
getting all excited. Maybe this is why. And you ask all them
Bless.
things, but um, we'll see what
Yeah.
I guess the future holds. You don't know what the future holds or when it's going to
That's
happen.
definitely not true.
I
Look at
know.
look at all this.
I know. Do you think that, like obviously on
Trust
a
me.
personal question, do you think that you will keep it that way? Or like for like when it comes to obviously you're going through the process now of, IVF and things like that, you're getting prepared for it. Like, do you think that you'll keep the
Yeah.
room the same or will you find out what you'll be having and kind of go from there?
I think we will find out what we're having. I think it will help with I found with Millie, it helped me connect to the
Yeah,
baby more when I found out the gender. Like I was
I
always like that,
agree.
they, them. And then when I found out it was a girl, I was like, oh my gosh. Like, so I was very, very, very
Yeah.
connected. Um, I think we'll find out what we're having. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it'll help with my anxiety or just help me connect or whatever. But I don't think I'll change anything. It sounds so dumb and awful, but I felt so stupid that I had so much and everything ready. So you're on the other scale where you think, well, I didn't have anything ready. I had every possible
Thing.
fucking thing. Like I have a basket in here that was all the things I'd need if I was out driving. So it's like literally spare nappies, spare wipes, spare this, spare that. I had triple of everything for
Yeah.
just in case. I had the nappy change everything for the bedroom. I had one for like I was just so paranoid about being a bad mum or not being prepared that I had everything over prepared. So I don't need anything for this next baby except for that everything is pink. So if it's a boy,
Very
he's
pink.
going to be wearing a lot of pink. Um, Yeah. So, I honestly don't plan on buying a pram or a car seat. They're the only two things I need. I do
Yeah.
not plan on buying them until the day I birth a
Yeah.
healthy
And
baby. I just can't. I can't bring myself to having to take shit back
yeah.
again. I can't. It was fucking, even my psychologist, who is the most professional, amazing, grounded, kind, beautiful woman, shed a tear very professionally when I was like, I had to go to baby bunting and take back all the things that I didn't get to
Yeah. I
use.
still remember Luke doing that.
And she just, it was fucking awful. Like, I packed my brand new car. I bought a brand new car for Millie. I bought everything to be a
Yeah.
mum. And then I had to return most of it. And it was just like, so my GP did suggest we redo the whole room. And I was like, that's fucking
Yeah.
ridiculous.
And only when you're
But some
ready.
people have said it's very healing. I don't know. Yeah, I'm not ready to do it. We'll see what happens. We might be moving, so we might be renting this house out and buying a second
Oh,
house to
nice.
renovate. So that would make
Yeah.
me do it. Yeah, so that just
That'll be a
we'll just see.
process as well, I think, won't it? For
Not
like to
sure yet.
move out of the house
I
that
know.
like there's a lot. There's always a lot, isn't there, I guess. But
There
yeah.
is.
And I
I
think
know.
that, and that's where
And
I'm like, even with the next like I don't think I could leave this house. I'll be like, oh, this was our first house that we've bought as well, and everything's kind of happened in it. So for me to like even do that, but I don't know as to whether this time around, if there is a next time, like I can't. That's just me being hopeful. You never know what's going to happen. But it's
I
like
know.
whether I'll then go, okay, spare room's gone. That's going to be baby room, and whether I go over and beyond, I don't know.
Mm,
But that's why I had all them
I
like
know.
with that question for like Amy and returning back to work and all that kind of stuff. It's is yeah, I think it's just your whole life you have to change as to how you navigate through all of it. Um, but we will get
Yeah.
there eventually, maybe.
We
Like,
will. I know there's so many beautiful women that have gone before us, and I think that's the only thing that gives. And that is the good thing about social media. I have times where I haven't been on since sometime yesterday because I got so overwhelmed with all the birthday
mm,
stuff, and I just haven't been back on. But I know when I do, I'll have some beautiful women who have gone before me that will be like just sending the most beautiful messages about how they survived their first birthday,
yeah,
or when we're having troubles in the marriage, even my auntie said yesterday, why don't you go and ask like some of the ladies that have been there before you, like how to navigate this particular part? And I think, yeah, fuck, I do need to do that.
yeah. That'd be good.
So, seeing them
I think that'd be good
survive.
to like like a little
Mm,
app. When you can, sometimes like I think you can get apps where you just like reach out to mums. Like, doesn't matter where you are in the world. I was even thinking about this the other day. Doesn't matter where you are in the world because obviously someone will feel alone at some point. To like have an app where you can like
mm,
reach out to other mums and be like, is anyone out there? I just need someone to speak to. Instead of it being like a counseling session where you have like bears
mm.
of hope, like just to have other mums to be like, I just need someone who's not a counselor and someone to just understand for you guys to just bounce off each other.
Just another mum that gets
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
But yeah, no, like
Yeah.
obviously that would be beautiful to have for like you just to hop on whenever you're feeling anything and just and go, oh, here we go. But I guess that's what support groups are for. But um,
And I think Amy did. That is a great idea. But Amy did say that they have that WhatsApp group with the Central
yeah, they
Coast
do.
girls, and so if you have WhatsApp, they were going to add me to it as well, where it's just kind of like a hey, I'm having a really griefy day. But I do, yeah, I use social media for that a lot as well. Like I share a lot of shit, and then I'll also just reach out to a couple of the mums who I've interviewed before, or who I just have connected
Always.
really well with
Yeah.
a couple that I really feel like I can reach out to and ask their advice on certain things, and
Yeah.
they're
Which is
awesome.
good to have. Like it's something that, but yeah, obviously with that with the
Mm.
Central Coast thing, I would like to, but obviously I've got to go back to work soon, and I don't know as to when I'm going to be
Mm.
able to travel that time to be able to go down when they're available. So we'll but yeah, we'll figure it all out eventually. I'm just going through the motions of things as we
Yeah,
all do. So, but I
totally.
I know,
Day by
and
day,
I
that's what
finally
they
made it
say,
onto the
right?
podcast. I know.
Yay! And do you have a little
Yeah.
accent? You have like this sweet little.
So I'm English.
What is
So
it?
I came here when I was 24. I'll be in Australia for 10 years in April, April the 9th. But not many people realize that
Yeah,
I'm even
cute.
English anymore because I don't know, I've just developed this really weird accent out of nowhere.
I just hear the little. It was about halfway through, and I thought she's got a tweak of something, but I can't
I
work
get
out what it
Kiwi a
is.
lot. A lot of people think I'm from New Zealand or something, and then they're not entirely sure. But a lot of people
Uh
don't
huh.
put me down for English. A lot of English people that meet me sit there and go, "Nah, you're not." And I was like, "Yeah, actually,
Yeah, it makes sense
yeah."
now that you say it.
So
Yeah.
yeah, been here for a while, developed my life, and here we are. So, but no,
I love it. Well, thank you so much for
I was,
sharing
I was about
all
to
of
say I
the
don't even
bits
know what I've
today. It's
said.
been
It's like
such.
such a blur already in my mind. I'm kind of like sorry to anyone. I don't even know what I've said. So
No, it's so perfect. I think for me, I just like to summarize really quickly, and I just love that the things that I took away from it was you saying that it was sad for people that you used to always see all the time and then they just wouldn't speak to you and you'd rather them just have a conversation. Yes, it might be awkward, but just ask you all the things, ask you what happened, ask her
yeah,
name. And I think that's really important because, and do not make excuses. Like it's just, sometimes silence can be awkward, but it's just, I'm so sorry. That's so
yeah,
shit.
yeah. It's
Like that's all that it needs to be. It's not you're not gonna. It's not oh you'll get another one. It's not. It's literally a human being
yeah,
that died. Like whether it was stillbirth or a miscarriage or whatever, like a 1 week old. It's not oh you'll get another
yeah.
one. It's like you don't just
No,
replace your
and especially when
child.
it's like that soon, like it's like as much as we have these discussions, like yes,
Mm,
we are thinking as to like when am I going to be able to have another one? Am I going to be able to? And it is
of
actually something
course.
that does come into your mind quite quickly after, even though the situation's occurred and you feel very, because I've heard other
Absolutely.
people say that, but yeah, like it's I don't know. Like I think with people are human. Everyone's human, and that's why I kind of have a bit of give in sometimes the
Yeah.
things that people say. Like I heard, I think I said to you the other day, like I heard a guy turn around to like this new mum and just basically be like, "Oh, just pop out another one," and it's like. Yeah, because that's what we just do, right? We just like pop them out. That's exactly how it works,
Mm-hmm.
mate. And
Yep.
yeah, I just think that
Yeah.
people are very blasé to it, and no one will. I don't think anyone will ever have that mindset as much as we'd love them to be more concerning and thoughtful about the things that they say, unless they've been through it, and it's not something that people think about,
Yep.
sadly, and you know, ideally it doesn't happen to us again. But I've also heard of
Mm-hmm.
situations where it has happened on multiple, times, and you just kind of like Amy said, you've got to have that hope. Like mine apparently was a critically small placenta as well. That was also something that was raised
Right.
during it. So initially the OB had said, "Oh, you had a small placenta," and I said, "Can I have the reports?" And when I read the reports, it actually said critically small placenta, and I was like, "Oh, critically is a little bit different in comparison to small placenta, and how was that not picked up?" Um,
Exactly.
between that, yeah. So there was another couple of things that were raised, but obviously I've been in here for some time, so I'm not going to necessarily go into it. But
No, that's fine.
it
It's
was
fine. It's fine.
I
What were
was like,
they?
again, which I think I mentioned at the cafe, was the fact that when I was speaking to the OB, she said that her growth had plateaued between the 32 week, or was it 33 week mark, to the last scan, which was the 37 week. So her growth had not gone up or changed in between that time, but
What the
no one had
fuck?
actually ever said anything to me, or said apparently it wasn't concerning for them to look back on records. I'm assuming that they don't actually review the previous scans. I have a feeling that they look at the scan that's there in front of them and they go, everything's okay, no worries. But then when it comes to actually reviewing only on a situation like this, then they go, oh. And I remember saying to her, I was like, and that wasn't a cause of concern? Like, that wasn't a cause of concern, the fact that it grew. No, because she was in like the circle. So that's like how, because of the fact that her weight and everything was apparently in that. But then they also told me when she was born, she was very small. And I was like,
And so she had no amniotic fluid, she had a critically low placenta, and she had plateaued in her growth since 32
Yeah,
weeks.
apparently from 33 weeks to the
Like,
37 weeks, the growth plateaued. And I'm just kind of,
but did it, she,
for me, I'm
yeah,
like, oh,
fuck.
so, and I was like, so I don't get it. I was really confused at the time, and I was like, she goes, oh, if you go to any OB, they'll tell you the same, that it wouldn't have been something because it's like in that circle. And I just kind of went, how, like, do you even look at scans? Does anybody even look at them and check them against each other to be able to make
Mm,
sure that everything's going okay? Or do they just get the scan and review it at the time and go, yeah, that's. But then I was told that she was only under average. However, then when she was born, which was only a week beforehand, when she was born, I was told that she was
mm.
a very small baby. And
So do you know what
I
she
think she
weighed?
was
What did she
two
weigh?
point. This is me now. I'm terrible when I don't even know Scarlett. I think
That's
she was
tight, but
2.9, I
that's
think.
small.
2.9. Scarlett was
Right. Yeah.
3.07 kilos. I remember that. But
Okay. So, yeah. Okay. So she wasn't much
Scarlett,
smaller
no.
than
But
Scarlett.
Scarlett was as well. She was a
Yeah.
41, 42 week baby. So, but she was pretty
Yeah.
average. But yeah,
Wow.
no. So with Sage, she was they said that she was small, and then I'm being told by the OB. What the only reason I found out it was critically small was because I requested the report. She never said critically small. She just said, "Oh, I can see that you had a small placenta." Like, it was dumbed down. It was made to sound as if like your placenta was small. And then when I got the report, and then me and Luke were reading it, Luke goes, "Wait, this says critically small. Like, how is that? Like, your placenta gets measured when you have your
Mm.
ultrasounds, when you have your scans, right?" And
Yes.
I
That's
don't know
right.
whether it's a continuous thing that they do in every scan or whether it's just on the initial to check your placenta. But I was like, how is something that's critically small not picked up? That's just for
Mm.
me. And I've heard it quite a few times where it's like small placenta, and you're like, yeah, but why is that? You tell us that everything's okay. We're taking your word to say that the baby's size is okay and
Yeah. That's
everything's
right.
all good. And then now you're telling me that now she's born, oh, everything that we told you was a bunch of shit, so to speak. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I'm going to be someone who looks into it. There's part of me that does have a lot of questions, and I'm waiting for the 6 month autopsy. If they actually contact me, because when I went in for my OB, they told me to send a complaint through about a few things and gave me the email address, and I got told I'd get a phone call the next day. This was by the antenatal coordinator. Yep, I'll give you a call tomorrow. Here's my personal email address. CC me in. I'm still waiting for that phone call, and that was at my 6 week appointment, and
Yeah.
we're
Right.
now approaching 5 months. I was like, okay, so you can sound empathetic, and you can sit there and pretend to be empathetic because I'm mad
Yeah.
at this moment in time, but you literally did not follow through, which was very clear as well, which is my whole concern at the time, was like, you guys are not empathetic at all. You're literally calling me after I've just gone and had a stillbirth, asking me if I'm still pregnant. Where's the follow up on that with your staff? And she was like, oh, I'm going to go across
Yeah.
my whole staff and make sure that this. And I'm like, I guarantee that's a load of bunch of bullshit that's probably not been followed through with. I was like, that's
Yeah.
probably how it's going to
Yeah.
be. So I'm still yet to as well write that complaint. Again, it's on my list of things to do. But yeah, I think like all of us in hindsight, you see things that you probably didn't really think about it. Like, your intuition's there to an extent,
Yeah.
but I definitely, if I do get the chance again and we do obviously have another one, I will be on high alert with every single person I think that you come
I
across.
know.
But I should say you'll
I
probably be the
know.
same when it comes to your point. We all are, and then yeah, we'll
Yeah.
just kind of go from there.
And just, I guess I get a lot of, I listen to a lot of the, well, I didn't listen. When I record the podcast, I ask a lot of questions like, what was it like in your pregnancy after loss and things like that. And it is hard, and we do have a lot of anxiety. But, what a lot of the girls say is like the feeling, like Amy said it the other day at the cafe, like holding Banksy after losing Lawson was just like this
Yeah,
bittersweet but very healing
healing thing. Yeah,
experience. So
yeah, and I'm hoping that maybe one day both you and I will be able to get that opportunity again where, as well,
Mm,
like for, healthy babies and all that kind of stuff. So, but
yeah.
that's on
Gosh,
the
I hope
hope
so.
train. The hope train's there. We're just waiting to kind of
Mm-hmm.
get onto it and
Yeah.
go from there.
Did they tell you a certain time period that you're not allowed to because of the
So
C-section?
when I was at the hospital, it was like, oh, you can't for like another 12 to 18 months. So technically, obviously, it won't be until at least September this year that I'll be able to.
Yeah.
However, in discussions with my doctor, like, because they obviously bring contraception straight away, like, obviously, straight after, 2 days after, they're like, oh,
Mm,
have you thought about contraception? I'm like, do you really think I'm even looking at being intimate with my partner at this point? Like,
mm,
I'm at this
mm,
point just kind of like, nah. Um, but
mm-hmm.
yeah, so then I had a discussion with my doctor, and she'd asked me about it, and I'd said to her that, with me being 34, I said, and I know that they talk about this cutoff of like when you're 35, I don't want my hormones being all over the place. I'm not planning on using contraception. I'd rather go the natural way of it instead of
Yeah.
like putting things into my body and having, the implant, for example, or injections. I don't want to do that to myself because previously in the past I've had issues with them,
Yeah.
which is I came off contraception for that reason. Um, and yeah, she basically just turned around to me and she goes, I have no concerns, like, because I was like, she didn't say a time or anything. I said, but she just goes, you do what you have to do. She didn't say don't do it, like at this point. And I'm very
Mm.
conflicted on it. Like I've heard of people who fallen pregnant a couple of months after, like for example, with Amy. Obviously, I don't know if Amy had a vaginal birth. So I think she did, didn't she? Or with
I
that's
think she
awesome.
did.
But
Yeah.
they still actually say with vaginal births, it's not just C-sections. It's also with vaginal births. They also still recommend that period of time in between
That's right.
its
Because of your
body,
potential prolapse and all the internal damage
placenta.
and, your uterus contracting back down, etc.
So all this
Yeah.
kind of stuff, like with the pulling of the wall and like placenta, because I had that with Scarlett. My placenta came off the wall during labor. So all this kind of stuff. And I just think doesn't matter if you have a vaginal birth or a C-section. Of course, we want to limit it because we've been through a traumatic experience, and I don't want to put myself in a situation where I go through that again because I've decided to just be blasé about it and go, oh, I just want to have another baby. I'm just going to go do it. Um, but you do hear of a
Yeah.
lot of situations where people have like they've just had a baby and they fall pregnant very quickly afterwards, and they have another healthy baby, and again after that they
Mm,
don't wait.
I know.
There's yes, some people do wait that 12 to 18 months, but there's also a lot of people that you see that have babies like very, very quickly soon after, and it's
And things can still go wrong even if they wait a long
yeah,
time anyway. Like, my whole thought is like, our path is already set
I
out for
agree
us.
with that.
And I just think
Yeah,
so. Yeah. So some of the girls I've interviewed are like, oh, yeah, I fell pregnant accidentally 3 months later after a C section and they went on to have healthy babies. This is girls I've interviewed that lost
yeah,
babies as well. But I'm like, you know what? I'm at high risk of uterine rupture forever now because of my T incision that happened during
yeah,
Milli's birth. And so whether fall pregnant, so that I've been told strictly 12 months, but whether it's now or whether it's in 3 years, I'm not allowed to go into labor anyway. Baby will always have to be a planned
yes.
cesarean at, say, 36, 37 weeks.
That's pretty
So,
much what I've been told as well. I got basically
yeah,
I'll be classed as high risk just purely from this situation. And
yeah,
it was funny because she was like, you'd have to probably do it 38 weeks. I said 38 weeks was when I had my baby. So you're talking 38 weeks for me to go in. I said I'd be expecting 37. Like I'd have to have a C-section anyway because this is my second
mm-hmm,
C-section that I've had. Um, but
yeah,
no, I completely agree.
yeah,
Like I don't even think that they've actually, it's more of them covering themselves to be like, oh, I mean, I had
yes,
5 years in between Scarlet and Sage, like 5 years for my body to have, and I still remember, I think was it after a year, I could still feel twinges in my C-section a year after having Scarlet. Like I could
wow,
still feel them,
yeah,
and I just, I think everyone's body's different. And it doesn't necessarily mean, like I said, five
yeah,
years, I'd had a C section, but this still happened. should I have waited for another 2 years? Like, and then maybe it wouldn't have happened. Like,
Yeah, that's right.
I'm very much on
No,
whatever
I
happens,
know.
happens. That's how I see things now. Like you said, I think that there's a path that's already made out for us. And I'm very in agreement with that.
Yep.
Like, whatever is meant to be will be. And I'm hoping that there is that
Yep.
opportunity, but there may not be. And I have to be grateful with what I have right now. And that's the only hope that you can really
Yep.
have, I think, is just appreciate what's there and what's around you at the moment. And the rest should all fall into place, hopefully.
I
that's, that's,
know.
that's all you
I
can do.
agree. I agree.
Yeah, fingers crossed. Fingers crossed for everyone.
I know. We'll see what happens. Hey, we'll see what 2024 brings.
Let's hope that 2024 is a nice, no hiccups this year, ideally. I say hiccups. I mean,
A better year,
hiccups is definitely not the
please.
word to be using, okay, for this situation, but numbers are very small in comparison to this trauma.
Little understatement, but
But ideally, a bit smoother sailing, hopefully a lot more healing, I guess, for everyone, inclusive of yourself, because
I
obviously
know.
it's as much as mine was in September, yours wasn't long before, so it's still very fresh for both of us. So
No.
we've got a lot of self-care to do, I think, and then the
We
rest
do.
will hopefully just blossom how it should. The only best way that I can say it without
I
sounding like
know.
cuckoo spiritual person.
We're all a bit cuckoo. It's fine.
But yeah, no, we'll be fine. That's how you just got to see it. Everything will be okay.
Yeah. Yeah. You're
So
awesome.
thank you for having me on here. Thank you for letting me ramble, and whoever gets to listen to this, good
I
luck
loved it.
with the long podcast that you'll be yet to listen to. um,
They're going to love it. It's good. You've been great. It's just, I love the ramble. I love you sharing every bit. I love the tears. I love the laughs. I love all of it. It's been awesome. And I know that you were the kind of person during like losing stage where you were very closed off to help and you were very closed off to talking about it and you were very closed off to a lot of things. So I think it's so awesome that you're in this space now, that you were ready
oh
to
yeah, like,
share. And I think it's going to help
to
a
be
lot
honest,
of
when you
people
messaged
for
me, I
sure.
was like, oh, I wonder if she's remembered. Like, maybe she hasn't remembered and I don't have to do it. Like, I'll be good. And then you messaged me and I was like, damn it, she remembered. Maybe I can pull out. Maybe I can't. No, Steph, do it. I'm like having a conversation with myself going, oh, I could just like message her and go, oh, I'm not feeling it today, Rochelle. I'm not going to do it. And then I was like, Steph, suck it
Hey,
up.
sometimes
I
that
was just like,
happens.
I just
Sometimes that
went, do it. I just
happens.
went, stop it because you won't do it. And then you put it off the next time. And I was like,
No.
just
Yeah.
freaking get it done. So I was like, here's what
No.
most of the story that I remembered anyway. But yeah, that's my version of the story, and I hope it made sense.
And you don't even have to wait long. It's going to be
Oh,
out this
great.
Sunday because we're all caught up on
Oh,
all of
great. I
our
won't be
know.
listening to myself. I'll let everybody else do that part. Yeah.
I know. Well, it'll be on Spotify and it'll be on YouTube. And I know you don't have socials. So, yeah, this Sunday, check out Spotify and YouTube. If you don't have the links, let me know. I can send them
Oh,
to you so that you can share them with your family
just
and stuff
cringe.
as
I'll
well.
just let them come across it whenever they want to.
Oh, bless you. Like, I'm just going to
And
hide it.
then
I'm not
someone
going to
will
tell
message
anyone
me and be
about
like,
it.
I swear I've just heard you or seen you. And I'll be like, oh, I don't know who that was, but yeah, might have been me.
Wasn't me.
No, it'll be good. It will definitely be good.
No.
But thank you. Thank you for having me on here anyway.
You're so welcome.
But
So proud of you. Well, enjoy the rest of your
well,
day
I'll be doing pickup in a
at
couple of hours, so
home.
I'll make the most of it, I
Yeah.
think. And then, yeah, same as
Enjoy.
you. Enjoy. Hopefully you don't have anything too crazy on today, work-wise or anything. So,
I'll fill you in
oh,
at some
okie doke.
stage.
Sounds fabulous. We'll do that. All
All
right. Well, I will leave you to your day either way,
right,
okay?
my lovely. All right.
And
So
you,
good
thank
chatting to
you.
you.
Have a beautiful day.
Thanks, Steph. Bye,
Bye.
beautiful. Bye. Bye.